Confirm clear to start the show. Welcome to the superpilotish channel. My name is Graham Wilson, and today in my basement, I'm going to be a ripper and reader over here. Yes, press release, dun dun dun, from CAE. Yep, and so I'm going to be just reading a press release here. I kind of heard about this on the internet, just kind of checking things out. And so apparently CAE is a company, it's a big global company that does training. They're going to be partnering up with NAV Canada. So here we are. Dun, 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 dun. I don't know. We should have like some little thing going across the bottom here with the breaking news or something like that. But there we go. I'm an aviation newscaster, just ripping and reading. And that's what it means. Like in the old days, there would be a teletype. It would be and they rip it off and then they read it. So that's my research. But I think I know a little bit more than your average ripper and reader. Okay, so this press release is from yesterday, January 16th, 2025. And I could read it verbatim, but I'll just kind of I'll be like the other news readers and just kind of pick what I think is important here. So today, which was yesterday, Global Aviation Training Leader CAE has inaugurated its first air traffic services training center on its campus in Montreal, Canada, as the largest provider of civil aviation training worldwide. I didn't know that. CAE trains pilots, aircraft maintenance technicians, and cabin crew. Last October, CAE started partnering in the training of air traffic controllers and flight service specialists with NAV Canada. So that's cool. Then we're going to skip over some other stuff that good old CEO Mark Parent said he was thrilled. CEOs are always thrilled and excited, aren't they? That they're doing this stuff. But another thing I didn't know, going down here, CAE's first partnership in the air traffic services sector is the world's first fully private ANSP, which is a air navigation service provider, and second largest in terms of the size of its airspace. NAV Canada. Okay, so that's pretty cool. The first students began their training in the new facility in October 2024, with CAE aiming to train approximately 500 air traffic professionals by 2028. I'll talk more about that near the end, about ATC and how they need more controllers. CAE's instructors deliver initial training for air traffic controllers and flight service specialists to students coming from across Canada using NAV Canada's training curriculum and courseware. NAV Canada will continue to deliver basic training, all specialty courses, and on-the-job training, with the latter part of air traffic services training solely offered by NAV Canada. Okay, so there we go. And so someone else here. Someone else is very proud of this partnership. Who's proud of the partnership? Marie-Christine Cloutier, Vice President, Strategy, Performance, and Marketing at CAE, and head of CAE's new Air Traffic Services Division. Well, that's a pretty big title. And she's very proud of this first partnership. Okay, what else we got here in the good press release? 2 pages. Photos of the new Air Traffic Services Training Center are available on CAE's website, which I got for my thumbnail, so that came from there. Yeah, so anyways, I was kind of just figured, well, it's kind of interesting that NAV Canada, I don't know how it works in the United States, but I know in Canada we have NAV Canada is a company that was kind of around when all the air traffic controllers used to be working for the government, which was Transport Canada. Then they kind of separated that off, privatized it, and then now NAV Canada runs that. That's the name of that company. So they were doing all the training, and now they're outsourcing that out to CAE. So, okay, here we go. Wrench is here too. And May Wrench. So we got all that news about CAE partnering with NAV Canada. And I could see I don't know. It kind of seems to be that's just what happens. You kind of have a big corporation, and they kind of start, splitting off different little things. And I know, see, I've worked. Let me see. I've talked to quite a few people that have had training with CAE. CAE is they have a lot of simulators. They work on like full motion simulators and stuff like that, and they have a bunch of them, and it's a global corporation. So pretty much anybody that's working for a big airline, they've encountered CAE at some point in their career, and from everything I've heard, they're pretty cool. Yeah, and I've known one guy for sure that used to work for CAE. I think there was one girl I met. She used to work for CAE too. They hire a lot of retired airline training captains and stuff like that. And so the training captains are getting tired of being all jet lagged, and CAE says, "Hey, you want 150 grand a year to go sit behind this computer and fail things in the sim for these guys?" And they'll be like, yeah, sure, I'll do it for a while. And it's steady days, not all jet lagged like airline pilots are. So there's another thing there that I saw just in that picture of what the simulator looks like when they're training people at CAE in their new facility there. And that kind of reminded me of, I was talking to air traffic controller. I've been in 2 control towers in my lifetime, Windsor here and Sault Ste. Marie. And so it's if you ever do get the opportunity to take a tour of a control tower, it's really worth it. Even like I think it's kind of beneficial for students mostly, because it really helps. If you're an instructor like me, and I always make sure my students, they got over to the air traffic, up to the tower, just to see what they actually do. So you realize at that point that when you're talking on the radio, you're talking to another person at the other end, and he's looking out the window or she's looking over there, and they can see you. And usually these control towers, they can see absolutely everything in the airport, which is pretty wild. You don't really think about it when you're on the airport. You're in your little plane, you can only see so far, but they're sitting up a lot higher with great big windows, and they can see everything going on. And they can say stop if you're going to be doing something you're not supposed to do. So yeah, so the control tower, last time I was up there in Windsor was a few years ago, and I was talking to Dave, the big G's, and he was saying that it's kind of the industry is kind of going towards well, like kind of anything, everything's more computerized these days. And they've been working with, and I have checked it out since, like this was a few years ago, and since there's been a couple airports that have they'll have a virtual control tower. So what they do is, I could be sitting in my basement here and looking at my computer like this, and maybe I'll have a few monitors around, or it could be like a 360, all the way around. And so it could be like some airport. I'm here in my basement, and some airport in the middle of Kansas next to Wrench there has a bunch of cameras. And so I'm looking around here at like a virtual, at the virtual airport here, which is the real airport over there. So, in real time with high-speed internet, making everything work. And I could be sitting here controlling from my basement. I could be controlling someone on the other side of the world and saying, yeah, clear to land. Yeah, I can see you in my basement. But yeah, so that's it's going to probably go a little bit more that way, I would think. How safe is it? Not too sure. Ultimately, what happens there is it's up to the pilots flying to to avoid other traffic and make sure you don't land on top of somebody, and make sure you're flying in weather that you can actually see where you're going. Or there's a lot of rules there, but a lot of that's on the pilot. And and if you think about it too, if you're doing all this IFR flying through, like people are flying in the middle of clouds or anything, they're just looking at their computer screens right now. And all your big jets, they're not watching the big jets out the window until like the very last minute. and they're telling everyone where to go just fine on their computers. So that can happen. It'll kind of get closer to the airports, and CAE. They have a long history of doing this type of stuff, and they have a pretty good track record, and it really does help out for safety. And I'm going to go to the CAE website here. You won't see it, but I'll be reading it, and I'll sound very, very smart. So CAE is, see, I'm sounding really smart right now, but I'm looking at their website. So, I mean, I could do it if you're a regular news person, they do this type of thing too. So CAE started off as a Canadian company, and it was called Canadian Aviation Electronics Limited, but now it's just CAE, stands for CAE. And so it was some ex-Air Force guy named Mr. Ken Patrick, and he wanted to, quote, create something Canadian and take advantage of a war-trained team that was extremely innovative and very technology intensive. So he kind of got into, I mean, back in the, that was 1947 when the guy started it up. And in World War II, they had the Link trainer, which was like this little box that you sit in, and you can kind of move it around. And as the Link trainer was like one of the first simulators. And then I was reading on the website here for the 1960s, A New Direction. Okay, the 1960s began with the award of two milestone contracts. The first was a military contract from the Canadian government for 6 F-104 starfighter simulators. The F-104 program was the company's first experience with radar landmass simulation and the incorporation of a visual system, a motion system, and a compact mission recorder. Within a 5-year span, 26 additional units had been purchased by 5 other NATO countries. So that was kind of like, oh, hey, I know somebody that flew one of those. And so I didn't know that CAE made the first F-104 starfighter simulators. And the guy that taught me my instructor rating a few years back there, he actually flew those F-104 starfighters. And he was telling me what they would do is he was stationed over in Germany, West Germany at the time. And their main thing, the Canadian F-104 starfighters. This is I thought it was kind of interesting, is they would, so they were getting trained how to like drop nuclear bombs and stuff like so. He was trained how to do that. And what they would do is they would fly kind of low level, ideally, like in the valleys and stuff like that, the Black Forest, and they get up to the border of East Germany, and then they hightail it and turn around. And then what would they do? They go back to the base, and then what they would do is in the CAE simulator, they would sit there and they'd say, okay, let's spawn basically in 1960s, early 60s, and they would say, okay, fly following this river to go drop your nuke over Moscow. And he said it was like he told me the CAE simulators were like super realistic, and he said that like you actually felt like you're flying along the ground, like low level through the valleys and stuff like that. So he said you'd think you're flying your plane. It was that good. So that was back in the 60s. So that was that's all what I know about F-104 starfighter sims. And I never knew it was made by CAE. And then, so you're thinking, how does an F-104 starfighter drop a nuclear bomb if they're low level? Well, this is what they do. It's called a drogue missile. And what it would do, I forget what he just kind of described it to me. I researched it a bit on the internet a little bit. So what you do is you got your airplane, your F-104 starfighter with your titanium wings about that thick. Very cool airplane. All right. Great big engine out the back. Okay, that's your F-104 starfighter. And then he said what you do is when you get close to it, so you got your targets over here where you're going to drop your nuke. And then so you buzz up here and at about a 45-degree angle. And this is all calculated. You have a certain speed, like depending on, there was like a little little computer or something like that in the plane that would tell you what speed you're supposed to climb at like a 45-degree angle. And then, so here's another starfighter here dropping a nuke. See you later, Moscow. So there we go. We're flying up like that. And then you drop your nuke, and it kind of keeps going up like this. And then eventually comes down, and then you have a little parachute. And you got your nuke. Looks like this. I don't know what a nuclear missile looks like. But there we go. So you go up here, you launch that, and once it comes down over the target, it starts coming down with a parachute. And now you're going to have a nuclear blast. So you got to get away from there. So he said what you do is you kind of roll inverted like this. And let's draw. How do you draw an upside down F-104 starfighter? Something like that. Okay. And here's your big engines underneath the wing. So there you go. You kind of go, you go inverted like that, and then you roll to be right side up. There you go. And I forget they give you a specific altitude to climb to and speed and stuff like that. You drop your nuke, roll around, do kind of like a half loop, and then you go back, roll right side up, and you hit your afterburners, and away you go. Mach 2, baby. And hopefully the blast doesn't knock you out of the sky. And apparently there's like a kind of like almost like welding. They're flying light shielded. It was like a welding mask or something that they put on there for their helmet, so the nuclear blast wouldn't blind them even if they're going away. So there, that sounded like, wow, man, that's some Cold War stuff going on. And yeah, and I asked him, it's like, what's it like, if you're going to be flying, dropping a nuke over Moscow, and like, don't you worry about killing all those millions of people and stuff? And he's like, well, at that point, we all figured as the end of the world, so might as well be flying an airplane. So I was like, okay. So hopefully we don't have any nuclear wars anytime too soon. But anyways, CAE made that sim. All right. So now I was going to talk about how they're training up. They're training up these air traffic controllers. And so I was looking around. I'm a big fan of NAV Canada. They keep me safe, and they keep me, they give me great weather advice, and I'm just, they're part of the aviation team here in Canada. And I've always found everyone at NAV Canada be super helpful, except for one grumpy old guy, and he retired. And, they're all pretty good. So I found out on the NAV Canada website here, which I'm scrolling around here, looking at the NAV Canada website. Whoop, what did I do here? And there was like a frequently asked questions. I saw it started showing how much these guys make for a wage. Tower controller. Oop, I'm screwing out here. I had it all set up. Come on. Oh, here we go. Yeah. So it's like, how do you want, like, if you do want to become an air traffic controller, and I think it would probably be the same in the States, though don't quote me on that. Is all you got to do is you just go to the NAV Canada website and you fill out an application, and they'll email you back. And then it's like, you go, okay, cool, I want to be an air traffic controller. So they have these little steps here I found in the talks about the selection process. So number one, learn about their opportunities. What do you want to do? Number two, verify your eligibility. Basically, you only need like a high school diploma, and just apply online. And then they'll email you back, and then you do an online assessment just to see how you'd handle like spatial, can you imagine what an airplane would be like if it's 5 miles away going 100 knots, or 10 miles away going 500 knots, which actually you shouldn't be going more than 250, but anyways, yeah. And then, they kind of test you on your spatial ability. And then they test you in person again. They give you language testing, make sure you can speak English okay. Or if you're in the Montreal flight information region, got to be bilingual in French and English. And then they assess you, and then they select you, and then you train and train and train and train. But you start off getting paid at NAV Canada. The good people at NAV Canada, they start off. It says here, training salary is 54,000 to 57,000. That's just to start, just to get training. And then it's like you go through it all, and then it's like by the time you're all done training after, and you do. There was a few people I've seen at our airport where they were training that, like, you'll be there and there's someone watching over your back, listening to everything you do, watching everything you do, writing down every little mistake that you make as a controller. Like, you gotta, it's kind of a high stress job, or it's not like you can't make mistakes. They allow a little bit, but I mean, not much. And if it's something that really affects safety, then you're getting in big trouble and you're not going to be a controller for too long. But that's why they get the big bucks. And so it looks like here they kind of, depending on what you're starting off with, once you get your license, you actually have to have a license to be an actual air traffic controller here in Canada. And yeah, you have a medical you got to do for that too. Yeah, you start off like around 100 grand, and the top pay scale is like a couple $100,000 a year. Like that's good money as an air traffic controller. So I encourage everybody that is looking for a job, give it a shot. Just apply online. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. You could be, if you got the right brain for it. You kind of have to have the right brain to be an right brain, left brain, I forget which is which, the correct brain to be an air traffic controller. And yeah, they're usually pretty bright people. And then yeah, and then get all tested up and make your own money. And yeah, they make a fortune. It's like I think it's almost like a rite of passage that as soon as they get hired as soon as they get their license to be an air traffic controller, they have to go out and buy a BMW. Seems like that's what they all do. Actually, I've known 3 controllers that have done that. It's like, oh, I'm buying a Beamer. So it's kind of funny that they all did that. But yeah, okay, so there we go. CAE, NAV Canada, Ebony and Ivory living together in perfect harmony. Something like that. And there you go. That was my official rip and read for the day. See, you don't get that kind of stuff on CNN or Fox News or CBC or ABC, Australian Broadcasting Corporation, BBC. You only get it in my basement, man. So there we go. That's that. So let's see. Looks like Wrench was the only one keeping me company in my basement today, but that's okay. What do we got here? So suggestion from Wrench that I need a time waster to stall for the first 2 minutes while we speed through the part we missed. Yeah. I don't know if I want to do time wasters. Good. I mean, that's an idea. Okay. So for years, we've heard that private ATC would be bad for little airplanes. They'd squeeze general aviation out of scheduled airports. Is that happening with CAE? They are just doing the training, some of the initial training for NAV Canada here. It's like we've had our private ATC in Canada for a while now. I mean, it is, I'm trying to think. Some things have gotten a little bit better. Some things have been kind of phased out, like, say for like VORs or something like that, which is, I don't know, everyone flies on GPSs now kind of, so the VOR is not really necessary, and that has to be calibrated and certified every year, and that's kind of expensive. Plus they can sell off the land, especially if it's in like next to a big city, they can make some cash. The amount of people that actually need a VOR these days, not that much. So, but they've gotten other things a little bit better there too. Their weather services, I think, really improved. So there we go. And so couldn't tell you how that's going to go on there. Okay, we're talking about, I watched Bianco Lirio, YouTuber specialized in accidents, play the near miss at Sky Harbor last week and decided being ATC would be super hard. Yeah, what's it? Blanco Lirio. Yeah, that's Ron Brown. He's actually a buddy of the safety doc, David Perodin. So he was talking about him. Yeah, actually, he does. Yeah, was it Bianco or Blanco? Yeah, Blanco Lirio. He's a pretty good YouTuber, like better than me. Oh well, but yeah, it would be hard. Okay, we got a question. I have the answer. Can ATC ever be automated? Lanes in the sky. It kind of is for IFR traffic, but hard to say. The way the technology is going in autopilots and GPSs and things like that, and we're going to get like autonomous, quadcopter, gigantic drones out there. So I could see them having automated sections of the sky. They've already started planning that down around Los Angeles, where this is an autonomous drone path or whatever. And so I think it would probably be a mix of both. Okay, and yeah, I think a nuke running a starfighter would be one way, not enough range. I think the old guy was telling me, what would it be? They would go, drop it off, and come back. And I think he did say that, like, just find an airport and land or something when they get back. Like, if you get low on fuel, just land somewhere. I think it was kind of like a one-way thing. Yeah. I never really thought about that, but yeah, I mean, those F-104s, the ranges, and that once you're going Mach 2, you're burning a whole lot of gas with that afterburner. Okay. All right, here we go. They might buy a nice car, but have to move to a city, they tell you. For the air traffic controller guys, from what I've seen, or from what I've heard here, is like they'll train you at slower airports, which are usually in smaller towns, so you got your cheaper rent kind of thing. You're not in a big metropolis like Toronto, Montreal, and stuff. And then once you want to get there, then your wages goes up like quite a bit, so you can afford to live in the big city. But and I think you can you kind of can apply to where you want to go. See, they won't just say, hey, you're going up here. You're going up to Yellowknife, and then like you're up in the Northwest Territories and it's minus 40 in the winter. They could do that, but I think it's I think if you go up there, they actually pay you more too, because it's kind of remote. I'm not too sure. And if you're living up there, I know you got certain tax incentives and stuff like that, so it could be worth it. Or you pay your dues, and then you make your big bucks, and then once you got the seniority, you usually end up sticking around one place for a while. So there we go. All right. I do not want to be an air traffic controller. No, thank you. It's just not my thing. But okay, so that's about it. Today is Friday. Now, I'm going to be out of town for a little while after this. So I normally do this Monday, Wednesday, Friday at noon Eastern, but I don't know what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be taking a bit of a road trip here starting next week. So not going to really know when or where I'll be. I'll try to get a show on here and there, maybe. I don't know what my internet speed's going to be like where I'm going, and not too sure. But stay tuned. I'll be gone for a while. I'll try to pop back in here and there, and we'll see how it goes. So in any case, I guess I'll just kind of shut her down, start my weekend, and then start the road trip. I'll keep you posted. So send me an email. I'll send you a postcard. Okay, and then that's about it. We'll shut her down. So thank you for watching. Bye.